Okay. I can't reach it. Put it. All right. So let's get started. Sorry. Okay. So we'll forget the rules for now. We're just going to do a freehand, just so you get, for those who haven't done any perspective, but we will use rules. They're important. So I want you to draw a line, a horizontal line across your page. So it's horizontal for horizon, or this way is vertical, like Venetian blinds. So horizontal, and we're going to put a circle or a dot. I'm going to put a circle so it's bigger so you can see it, but just a dot on the line. And that's going to be our vanishing point. So everything's going to go back to that line. So I want you to draw 3 squares. So we'll draw one that's crossing over the line, like that. We'll draw one above the line, like in the sky, and one below the line. I'm just doing a freehand at the moment. We will do ones with a ruler a little bit later. I'll zoom this in a bit. Oh, nothing closer. Okay. So has everyone got that? One line with a dot, and then 3 squares. One square goes over the line, crosses over the line, one above, one below. So this is, we've drawn square. Let me start again. So the easiest way to draw is to draw a line. That's simple. And then by using lines, you can then draw shapes. And so with that shape, if I draw more lines, I can turn that flat shape into a 3D shape. And then see, all those lines are parallel, so they'll never meet up. So that's not really a perspective. If I start angling those lines all to one point, then I can get something that's in perspective. It's at the bottom of that. And that's what we're doing now. So we're going from the simplest way of drawing, lines and shapes, to adding more lines and construction to get 3D kind of shapes. So we'll start with this one first. We're going to draw from this corner and this corner. And we're going to draw a line back to that dot, the vanishing point on our horizon line. So we will use rulers for these later, but for now we're not. And then I'm just going to draw another vertical line. So you can see that this is made up of 3 different lines. There's the vertical lines, the horizontal lines, and then the perspective lines. So that's giving us the side of a cube. Hang on, I've got a cube here. So instead of just seeing that side, you're actually seeing that. Seeing sort of this side of it as well, but this is flat. I can't show that flat and then show the side. So it's going to be turned a bit like that. But that's 2-point perspective because you see the angle of the lines going down this way and this way. So you've got a point over here and then a point over here. But we're only doing 1 point for now. We will do 2-point in a second. So let's do the square on the bottom. We're going to draw lines from these 3 points back to the vanishing point. So it's going to go back like that. It's going to go back like that. That one's back like that. So I've got our verticals, 2 verticals, but now we need a 3rd vertical. So you could draw it really close to this and have a skinny shape, way down here and have a very long shape, or somewhere in the middle. So they always have to be the same angle. And then let's do our horizontals. We've got one here, the bottom of the square, one at the top of the square, and where our vertical line meets the perspective line, we're going to do one across there too, like that. So it should be the same angle as the other horizontal lines. And then, of course, we've got our perspective lines, 1, 2, 3. There's 3 of each. So that gives us a nice cube in 3D space. And it's going back into a vanishing point. Does that make sense to everyone? So we'll try it again now with this one. So again, from these 3 points that are closest to the vanishing point, going to draw or rule our lines down. Like that. So three perspective lines. We've got 1, 2, and let's do this one really big. 1, 2, 3 vertical lines. 1, 2, 3 horizontal lines. And then we can fill in those sections there. And we've got our 3D shape. Maybe it's darker on the bottom because it's in shadow. We could also be casting a shadow, but it's a bit more advanced. There we go. So that's 1 point perspective. Now you can do all kinds of things with that. Just in lettering and drawing shapes. Just say you want to draw a street shape, a street picture. Just quickly do something here. Like you could draw a building that's here. Let's go like that. See how on the perspective line I've drawn the front of this building. So maybe rub out the horizon line in there. So imagine it's just this section. But I'm drawing it there. It's a massive shape going back that way. But then I could draw another one here. Maybe it's a bit smaller. But I want to get this perspective line going back to get that right. That one's going in there, that one's going in there. So now I've got like 2 buildings next to each other. And then here on the perspective, and here, maybe this is the street. See that? And then I could even draw perspective lines like this. This is going to be very rough to find out where the windows are going to go. Windows of the building. So as long as you're ruling all your lines and everything's either vertical, horizontal, or perspective, then you should be right. You can draw backgrounds in your pictures. Now what I want to do is move to 2-point perspective, which is a little more difficult, but it's more useful. So again, draw a horizontal line, and we're going to use our ruler for this one actually. So rule your line, do a dot for the foreshortening on both ends. Don't do them really close. Try and get them far apart. They don't have to be at the end of the line, but just far apart. And then before we drew the side of the shape, so we drew the side, the square, and then we did the perspective down one side. This time we're going to draw the line. So we'll draw a line like the corner. Crossing over, we'll do one at the top and we'll do one at the bottom. Now we'll start with the one in the middle. Has everyone got that? Horizon line, 2 perspectives, and then 1, 2, 3 lines. I'm going to start with this one. Get our ruler and draw a line from the perspective to the bottom of the line. Like that. And then perspective to the top of the line. And then we'll do the same thing from the top and the bottom of the line to the other perspective. So you're going to end up with like a diamond shape. A bit closer to that one. There we go. Now, so we've got our perspective on this side and our perspective on that side. We've got, this is going to be our shape here. So we've got one line. Let's put in another vertical here. So then that becomes, well, I don't have to rule that, you can thicken that up. That becomes one side of our shape. And I'll rub out the horizon line in the middle. Okay, and then we can put in our 1, 2, 3 vertical lines and put in the perspective. Like that. So notice in this one, we don't have any horizontal lines. Before we had horizontal, vertical, and perspective. Now we've got vertical, perspective, and the other perspective. And you can shade those in too if you want. Just maybe the light's coming from this side, so it's a bit darker on that side. Okay, so this is where it's going to get a bit more difficult. We're going to do the top line. So again, we'll do a line from the bottom of the line to the perspective, and then another perspective line from the top of our line to the vanishing point perspective. And then again on the other side as well. So it's going to be like a boomerang shape almost. So let's draw in our verticals for however big you want that shape to be.
Sorry, want to jump in. Has anyone got lost or everyone follows?
They seem to be following so far. So we've got our two sides. Like we did before, in this one we have two sides, but we've got these two sides, but we can see there's something missing there. So what we're going to have to do is come from this point and go back to the opposite vanishing point. Because you need 3 lines from each vanishing point. And then to the opposite this point, it's going to go to that vanishing point. And that's going to give us a little cross right here. And that's the corner of our shape. So we're seeing 3 sides of that. This one a bit dark. And you can sort of do that with anything. If you look at this screen here, so you see that shape, I'll bring it back here. As I go higher, well, you can't really see it, it's too far away. As you go higher, you can see the underneath, and as it goes lower, you can see the top. But when it's right in the middle, you can only see the sides. And that's what's happening here. We can only see the sides when it's on the horizon, so at eye level. But when it goes higher, you can see the bottom. So when this one's lower, we should be able to see the top. So why don't you try and do that one on your own? And remember, 3 lines, I'll start it off. 3 lines from each vanishing point. So top and bottom to each side, and then you've got to do the 3rd one as well. There we go. Is anyone stuck and they don't know what to do next? Children? Once you get the hang of it, it becomes very simple, but it can look very hard when you're first starting out. So you get your sides like that, and then why don't I make this one huge? Put in my other verticals. And then from this one, I go to that perspective, and from this one, the opposite perspective. And get my shapes. And see what the corner of mine's actually up inside this shape. So I'm not going to worry too much about that because it's not a see-through shape. It's not made of glass, it's a solid shape. A little bit of that. Now it looks like this one's floating on top, and you could draw a shadow in there as well if you wanted. But let me see how you guys went. See how clean your drawings are and if you got the right angles. Yeah, Bianca, you almost got it. You just have to draw in a few more of your vertical lines like there and on this side to find out where those crosses are going. So see, I've got your perspective coming down to here. You just have to draw your bottom line there. Abdul, that's pretty good. Yeah, yeah. Ethan, yeah, they look good, Ethan. Yeah, Will, they're good too. You just got to remember to keep everyone to keep your vertical lines straight. So they should all be the same straightness. You could use a grid paper if you wanted to. There's other ways you can do it where you have pins stuck in these areas with an elastic band, and you can sort of come out this way with it. You can see them online actually. If you look at tips for perspective, you'll see some different ways of doing these. So there's a thing I want to show you. It's just here, I've roughed it out. But it's showing the light source. So this is the sun beaming down. So we're going to draw another one. We're just going to draw this one shape, not a whole bunch. And then we'll figure out where the shadow goes as well. So new page. Give yourself a horizon line. Again, these don't have to be very dark. These are just construction lines, so they can just be soft lines. I put off my ruler there. So I'm going to give myself 2 vanishing points. One's off the page there. Come out a bit so you can see. One line with 2 vanishing points, and I'm going to draw my vertical line down low, but still have a bit of space below it. So that's where my shape's going to be here. So everyone do that. Try and make it square. Excuse me. Akira, are you okay? I just saw your message, you and Nathaniel. We're doing perspective today. So horizon line, 2 vanishing points, and then this is the beginning of our shape. It's just one side of our shape. And so we want to do 2 of our 3 lines to perspective. So from the bottom of the line, the bottom of our shape, I should say, to perspective 1, and the top to that same perspective. We'll have a nice triangle. And then we'll do it to the other side. From the bottom of the line to the vanishing point, and the top of the line to the vanishing point. So we've got that nice boomerang shape. Now, thumbs up when you've done that, because I don't want to move on too quickly. Yep. Jordan's done it, Ethan's done it, Will, yep. Bianca, Ethan, okay. Nathaniel, how are you going? You get your thumbs up, I saw it. Okay. So now we're not going to draw a huge shape this time. We need more verticals. So one on the right-hand side, one's not very straight. One on the left, one on the right, just to help define our shape. Just going to go over the perspective lines of our shape. Looks like an open book, like the cover of a book. And then once that's done, we're going from this point to the opposite perspective, and then from this point to the opposite perspective. So that's going to be our third lines for our perspective. So this perspective has 1, 2 lines, and then the third one goes over here, like that. 1, 2, 3. And then the one on this side has 1, 2. So we're going to draw a third one, and it's going to join up to this point. There we go. And that forms the roof of our square there. Now you could erase these lines now. You don't need those. You just need the shape and the perspective. Let's give it a little bit of shading on one side. Make it lighter on the other side. Okay. So everyone got that? Okay. So now we are going to, Reese, you got a question?
Well, I accidentally pressed, I wasn't actually going to have a question. I was going to press the thumbs up,
Oh,
but I did it, but then I pressed the wrong one. That's all.
No worries. So we're going to draw the light now. So the sun, you can just pick a dot at the top, or you can actually draw a circle with a dot in it. This is going to be the sun right at the top there. And then you also need to draw a vertical line from the sun down to the horizon and draw a dot there. So like on the horizon, we have 2 dots, 2 vanishing points. This line here also has 2 dots, one at the top, one at the bottom. And those are going to help us find where the shadow is cast from that light. So if you drew the light over here or up higher or down low, it's going to change the angle of the shadow that we're drawing. So let's start with the bottom one. Actually, I'm just going to rub these lines out so you don't get too confused, because there's going to be a lot of lines on this page. I'll leave bits of them there so you can still sort of see where they went. Okay. So you can sort of see where they shoot off out to there. So the bottom, basically we're going to draw a line from this perspective to cut through that point, and that point. So the 3 points of the bottom of our cube. So this one's going to go straight through there. See how it's just touching? And then the next one. I'm not going to draw through my square. I'll sort of draw up to it and then stop and then pick it up again on the other side. And then this one as well. There we go. So you should have 3 lines on the bottom, on the grid, on the ground. Now I'll wait till everyone's done that before we do the next part. So this is where the shadow is being cast along these lines. But we need to find out how far to do them. And that's why we have this vanishing point. So thumbs up when you've reached that step. Yep, Bianca, Isaac, Abdul, Lamb, Race, Sahil. Yeah, okay. You okay, Nathaniel? All right. So now good. Now we're going to go from the sun, the dot in the sun, and we're going to bring them down past these dots again. Sorry, no, going down these dots. I looked at the wrong thing. So we did before we did the dots at the bottom. Now we're going to do the dots at the top. So from the sun to that top dot, and you want to draw it all the way through until it crosses the bottom down here. So we went through this dot, this corner, from the sun perspective, through the top corner, all the way to where it touches the bottom line that we drew. And then again, from the sun, oh, mine's not going to be on the page. From the sun, through that dot, all the way down to where it touches, but mine's off the page. And the same with this one. Again, mine's off the page. What's there? This one. I'm going to draw it on the table. So you guys can actually see. Oh my God, it's really long. Okay, so here, oh, you can't even see that. See those two dots? That's where they've crossed over. So I know my shadow goes to there and there. But my other dot, see them on my table where I've drawn it, it goes to there. So I have to join that up to here and here. Oh, that joins up to that. Oops, I moved it. Oh no. And this one joins up to that. Does that make sense? And that whole thing then is your shadow. Okay, I'll put the camera down so I can do it. So because I did my sun low, it's a very long shadow. If you do your sun higher and in the middle, like midday, it's going to be a shorter shadow. Yeah. It's a mess on my table. So how did everyone go with that? Do you want to hold it up and show me? While I sharpen my pencil. Bianca. Okay, yeah, you had a similar thing. Those vertical lines are very, you drew a rhombus or a parallelogram instead of as a cube, but that's okay. That looks good. You got it there. Sharpen my pencil. Okay, so just like I'm sure you've seen before, you know, if you had someone standing here, it's a little man standing there, and if the sun, when the sun's first coming up, it's shooting its rays, and you have a very long shadow, or if the sun's low, it's casting its light, and so he's going to have a long shadow like that. But then when the sun's at the top, it's only casting light on this, you have only a shadow down the bottom. So if the sun's over here, it's going to be casting a bit of a shadow like that. So the same thing's happening here. The lower the sun, the longer the shadow. The higher the sun, the smaller the shadow. Liam, that's pretty good. Oh, Isaac, you did it straight at the top. There you go. If everyone can see Isaac's, he's got the very small shadow because his is right at the top. Yeah, well done, Will. Ethan, you got a really long one too. Yep, that's good. Okay, so everyone got that. Everyone picked that up pretty quick. Well done. So why don't we have some fun then with the 2-point perspective? Do a bigger one this time because we want to draw a big shape and we want to have a lot of room we're going to sort of cut things away. Let me bring this up so you can see most of the page. There we go. Okay. So I'm just going to draw a horizontal line as before with 2 vanishing points there and there. So you can see how big I've drawn it, sort of almost as long as my hand. You can do them that way as well. Instead of doing a horizon line, you can do a vertical line and then draw your shapes in. They just, instead of ending up like that, they're just going to be drawn like that. It's no different. Okay, so my screen just went off. Oh no, Liam is sharing his screen. What are you doing, Liam? You want to turn that off, Liam? Somehow. There you go. All right, so I want to draw a big shape in this center here. I'm going to draw mine, instead of drawing a line in the middle, I'm going to draw slightly off to one side. Stop sharing screens. And I'm going to draw a big line that goes through top and bottom. If you can see that. Why are you dabbing, Alex? There you go. And then we'll do the top and bottom to draw that big kite, a big kite or a big diamond shape. So I'm doing 2 from the bottom point of that line, 2 perspective lines, and then 2 from the top. Oops, that was a bit off. So you should have a nice big kite or diamond shape like that. Okay. When everyone's done that, I'll move on.
Sorry, Evan, I was away. Who did share the screen?
Liam accidentally did it, and someone else, I wasn't sure who.
Okay. Can you make sure you don't do it again, please? Thank you.
It's just distracting for everyone, that's all, and me included. So we've got that. Everyone got that shape, the diamond? Yep. Okay. So we're going to draw a big shape. So I'm going to draw not close to this line, pretty far away, like over here. That's where I'm going to put my other vertical. And like that. And then I'll do one way over here as well. And just so it's a little clearer, I will rub out the horizon line in the middle of that shape. Okay, you can even rub out the perspective lines, we don't need that. Keep the horizon line on the sides. So it looks like the shape is actually sitting in a space. I'll just darken it up a little bit. Oops, there we go. So what you can do now, just a little bit closer, is I want to do some lettering along here. So if I did my name, that's only 4 letters, E-V-A-N, so I could split it up. You could do any letters or even shapes or whatever. So I'm just going to break it up. So that's going to be the letter E, for example. And I'm going to do another one here, make it a lot bigger. So that's going to be the V, and that's the side of my next letter. So I've got E, V, That's the side of my A there, but my A is going to be on this side. Actually, I'll split this in half. Actually, I'll do it way down here. E, V, A, N. Okay, so that's 4 spaces. You can do whatever letters you want, or you can just copy mine. It'll just be easier for you to follow along. So let's start here. Zoom in a little bit. Okay, so my E, I'm going to build it so it has that block at the base on the side, and then of course it's going to be capitals, so I'll do that. But these are going to have to be in perspective, so it's going to look something like this. The E in the middle like that. So just with my ruler, I'm going to figure out how thick I want the line to be and draw it down. So there's the beginning of my E. Nathaniel, got a question?
Yeah. What about if you're doing an N?
Well, that's what I'll be doing at the end over here. Well, N's built the same. It's going to have the N like that on one side, and it's going to have perspective. Oh, sorry, I can't say that. It's going to have the beginning of the N there with perspective, and then the end of the N is going to be bigger, and then you just have to join them up in the middle.
Oh.
So these middle lines are special lines. They don't work in perspective at all. So why don't I start over here, then I'll start with the N.
Yeah.
So you can watch that one. So this one I'm going to bring down. So that's up, one upright of my N, and the other upright I'll make it a lot thinner. Down like that.
Yeah.
Okay, is that clear to everyone?
Yes. Yes.
And then I want to go from the top corner to about the bottom, not quite the bottom, and then from the bottom corner to not quite the top. So I'm going to draw lines like this. Oops, my ruler moved. And then make it a little wider, like that.
Yeah.
Everyone see that? And then I can rub out these little lines in here and here. So then I've got an N sitting there. And I'll come back to the inside bits, which have to be done in perspective, but we'll just get all the flat bits done first. Okay, so everyone see that N? Now I'll go back and I'll do the E. So I've got side of my E. I'll just mute you again, Nate. For some reason I can't mute Nate. Nate, do you want to mute yourself? There you go. So I've got my E like that, but these other ones have to be in perspective. So the bottom has to go back to this point, and the top has to go back to this point. So I need to pick, oops, sorry, I just knocked it. I need to pick a point of how thick I want this to be, say about that thick. So I'm going to go from that point back to the vanishing point. It's not lined up. And so there is the bottom of my E. It looks like an L. If anyone was doing an L, they'd be doing that. RJ, you got a question?
I already did the shadow thing, and I already nearly finished the thing that we're doing right now, the NE.
Okay. Do you want to show me?
Yeah. Well, quite not yet, but
Yeah. Okay.
I'll show you when I'm there.
Okay. Put your hand up again when you're ready to show me. Okay, so I've done the top of the E there as well, and I'll leave out this bit. And I just need the inside part of the E. So I'm just going to do like a vertical there. So the bottom and the top are going to go back to perspective, just like a normal shape. Because one's above the line and one's below the line, so they're going to be slightly different angles. There we go. and rub that up. And yeah, they've got an E in there. Now, the V and the A are very similar shapes, just one's upside down. So what I'm going to do is to find the middle of this shape, let's bring this up a little bit. What you can do is draw diagonal lines across from one point to the other, like you're putting a big X through it. That and like that, and that finds the center point. Can you see the crosses there? So I know the center point's there, so if I did my vertical line through that center point, I know that that's the middle. It might not look like the middle, like if I measured them. One side here is about 2 centimeters and the other side is about 3.5. But because of perspective, it gets moved back. So that's the middle. So if I want to do my V, and say I want to do it sort of that wide at the base, you did it your own way, Jordan, that's fine. As long as you can find the way to do it, that works. That's all good. So do my V up like that. Do my V like that. And then I'm going to keep that distance roughly the same on each side. Well, it's going to be a bit smaller on that side. And bring these points down. Maybe to where they touch the center. Like that. So there's a lot of lines there, but if you rub them all out, you can then reveal your V shape. Okay. Yeah, because that's not quite right. Well, I don't know who Kai is because something must be what retarded. What? But he must be famous. Is that what that says? Okay. All right. Well, I'm about to show you how to do an A. It's the same way I just did that V, but up the other way. So I'm just going to not do it without doing the crosses. So I'm going to bring that down to this point, and then down to that point. And keep these. So basically what I've done here is a V upside down, but I need to put in the cross piece. So that's going to be using the vanishing point. Cross piece on the A there, and then rotate it for the top of the cross piece. Yeah. So there we've got all the flat bits of the letters. But now we need to get the edges in. Like I've got this edge here for the A, but the A, let's start with the A. So see the top of the A up here. I'm going to draw a line back to perspective. Like that. Just in that little part there, we don't have to go any further. And that's giving me the top edge of the A. Maybe I only want it to be that thick, and I'm going to draw that down to the bottom corner on the other side. So this might be a bit confusing. I rub out this bit. And these bits now have an A that's sitting there. It's got a thickness to it, sort of like this. Trying to turn my hand in perspective. Does that make sense? See how I did that? And then you want to do it from here and here as well. So anything that's on this side, so the A and the N has to go back to that perspective. And the E and the V has to go back to that perspective. So down the bottom of the A here, I'm going to draw another little line. And in the corner of this A here, little line. find out how thick I want this to be. I'll draw that back up to the point like that. So that's my little shadows, and that's all colored in, that's all in shadow. That one. So you do the same with the back of the N. Do that back like that. And then up here, the other top of the N. Then come down the bottom, do the bottom of the N. Maybe you want that on an angle, so it's going to go back up to the top. Okay. So you see what I'm doing there? Now with the B, I don't need this big middle line. The very first line we drew, we don't even need. I've got all these lines around the V because all I need are these points. They're going to go back to this vanishing point. So down the bottom to that vanishing point. I'm not going to draw it all the way because I only want it to be sort of that thick. Don't know if you can even see that. I'll draw it a bit darker. That thick. So when I do the top one, I'll also only do it the same thickness. And then I'll join them up. So this is not a perspective line. It's a joining line. Straighter. Nate, you got a question?
Yeah. What about a T? Because I'm having struggled with the T.
Okay. Well, the T should be pretty easy with your lines like that. The perspective line. If you just do your up and down.
Yeah.
And then the top needs to be in perspective. And then you just draw it off like that. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So the top of the T needs to have two perspective lines. Hang on, I'll make show that a bit closer so you can see it. See that? Oh, I'll call it this one.
Yeah.
So the bottom of the T has a perspective and the top has perspective.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So now with this side of the I just did that for you, Nate. This side of the V, I want to come over to this perspective. Again, not all the way. You don't need to go all the way. I'm just finding where I need it to go to. And then it's going to come down to about there and shade that in. Now the E's got a lot more little points, but you should be getting the idea of it by now. Lines that go back to the opposite side. Got to put some verticals in for the edges. That's going back to this side. Now with the E though, you do need to do some of the opposite way as well, like the top section of this and the bottom section of that. RJ, you got a question?
I already did my drawing thing.
Okay,
Got
you
it.
want to show me? Oh, hang on a second, I'll put this one.
Wrong
Okay.
one.
You might have to turn off your oh no, there you go. You did it all flat, not in perspective though. But that's a good way to learn. That's a good way to start.
I tried to do it like I tried to do it like 3D, but It didn't work.
Didn't work for you? No, that's okay. So these points in here, you need to go in perspective as well, but I just drew them in hand drawn.
I tried it.
You tried to, and then you stopped because you went, yeah, that's right, don't worry. Okay, so that's sort of it. It is a bit hard there. How are we doing for time? Okay. But as Reese just did, a good way to start practicing doing lettering like this is doing it flat like that. I'm just adding in the horizon back in between those letters where you can see it. This looks like there's giant letters just sticking up out of the ground. You can mess around with that too, make some fall over. You can try doing shadows on that as well. But just down here in this corner, I'll show you. You can start off, and this is a way that when I'm doing lettering on computer work, because I don't like to use fonts, or if I'm doing illustration work lettering, I don't like to use fonts either. I'll break up, I may even put a space in between the letters, like that. So there's 3 letters there, this one's a bit bigger. And then I'll just draw them in those spaces. And if you can then imagine these letters like O, let's do an R. If you can imagine the letters in these spaces, on these flat spaces, then it might be easier to actually draw them in the 3D space. Let's make this one like a W. So I'm just roughing it out, trying out where they're going to fit. I've done this in a fair bit, so I can sort of get them in right, like that, and just sort of picture them. Jordan, that's good. But yeah, you didn't really fill in the space, but close enough. And so, Nathaniel, I'll get to your question in a second. So that when that shape, come in a bit closer, that same shape I'm doing here, when that's in perspective, I can break it up and then imagine where that circle is going to be, where the R is going to be. And then the W as well. I'm just going to shade this one in because it's so small. So practicing like that, breaking your letters up into spaces and then putting it in perspective. So you would also have your perspective lines and know where your horizon and all that is as well. That's a good way to start. But I put you in the deep end. I got you to do this. And most of you did it pretty well. Nate, you got a question, Nate?
Can I just show you my thing? Whatever.
Yeah. Let's have a look. That's pretty good. The bottom of your E isn't on an angle though.
Yeah.
But, that's pretty good for your first go. Not bad. Yeah. Good job. Okay. We're only got a couple of, because we've got going over a couple minutes. I'll show you something as well. You don't have to copy this one, but I'll do this one really quickly just to show you something else. So if we did that same thing with our one big shape, you can start eating away at it and drawing all kinds of weird things. Oops. And the last one. Okay. So we've got that. This is my shape here and here. Rub out that horizon line. So there's my big shape. I could say I want to draw a big doorway. I could draw, it's like that. Do a perspective line at the top, and that could be the door. if I wanted to show that it was open, like there was a hole going through, I could draw that line, and even from here as well. It was like a tunnel. So I rub this one out. You see that? So it looks like a doorway going in, and this is the roof. And it's sort of getting darker in here. Another thing you can do is to find circles. Say I want to do a big hole, like make it Swiss cheese. I'll draw another square in there, like that, and like that. Square or rectangle. Okay, so that's going to be my big. That's going to be my big shape. I'll find the center of that. Remember, I said you draw diagonals to find the center. And then I'll do the lines this way. The vertical and horizon one's going to be a bit of a perspective line. Like that. And then to get a circle, I can sort of skirt around these edges. Sort of fill it in like that. So as long as it touches all the corners, or all the edges, I mean, not the corners. So there we go. I've got a circle cutting through there. You can go now, but we're finishing like 20 past, 3 more minutes. So that could be a big hole. So I don't need all that square that I drew, but the best way to find a square is to draw the best way to find a circle, sorry, is to draw a square. And that could be the same sort of thing where it's darker, fades in. A hole going in the side of it like that. Bianca, you got a question?
This is just something I was using with the spare bit of paper that I had.
Mhm.
I kind of made an optical illusion. I'm not sure if you'll see it. Is that shape popping out or caving
Yeah.
in?
Yeah, that's right. It depends on how you shade it. Like if you shaded the bottom triangle darker, it would look like it's underneath. So like this looks like it's darker. Yeah, it is an optical illusion. It's very, very good.
Yeah. It was discovered by accident.
I think we're almost done. I'll just show you one last thing too. Like if you want to draw a castle, you could do another perspective line, sort of like that.
Your
And
drawings,
then-
your drawings of your holes make my head hurt.
So you do a whole heap of vertical lines here. So, and then rub out the middle. So you keep doing that along. So you get these tops. And they're all on perspective then. But then you would also need to do perspective the other way, which I'm not going to do correctly. I'm just going to eyeball it that way. So you get the side of it as well. So if you ever need to draw like parapets or whatever for a castle, you can do that. You could even add bits to the side. So you can have, an awning coming out kind of thing. It's not going to be quite right, this one, but because it's not in perspective. With a bit of a roof on it. On the side. Sorry, I did that other thing. So yeah, I'll do one over here so you can see it. If I did that in perspective and another one in perspective and join these up and then come down and then in perspective again and come down and join that up. So then you have this shape. So you just keep adding to it or cutting away. Like you can cut out the corner of that, quite easily, as long as it's all in perspective. And you could actually draw a house or, your house, something like that. Yeah, so let's have a little play with that. And we're definitely out of time now. We went over to make up the time we lost. But everyone did really well. So you try just drawing a big shape and cutting it out. Try doing these flat letters and then turning them into 3D letters. Nate, you got a question?
Why did it go for so long?
Because we started a little bit late, that's all.
Ah,
And we probably went over even longer.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think we are out of time, everyone. That's
Yeah.
it. I agree. We cover more than the time that we've lost. We start late. All right. Thank you, everyone. Can you send your perspective drawing to us so we can put into the online gallery? For now, I hope you learned something about perspective.
Yeah,
And yeah, I'm gonna mute everyone to say goodbye to Mr. Evan.
Bye, Mr. Evan.
bye, bye, bye,
Bye.
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 Bye.